Welcome to Daggers and Shadow Daddies.
We're your hosts, Ryan and Adriana.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
I could not stop listening every single time that we ended, but then I left you on probably the worst cliffhanger. I don't think that there is probably a single person who has ever read chapter 43 and didn't continue on into 44.
Yeah, because they love themselves.
I thought it was really enjoyable when it came to the end of chapter 43, and I'm just like, pause.
Fair enough.
We're done.
Yeah, no, I think if we've learned anything from this, a part of your enjoyment of this book is how I'm affected by where you choose to stop it.
That, or even just when it gets to the sex scenes, your reaction to them is really enjoyable also. Or any cringe points, like when Riorson says, good girl. I'm like,
yeah,
gross. But even just the fact that your reaction,
yeah, I think
so good. Your disgust made it it was just all so much fun. So I'm feeling emotion for the book, and I'm seeing your reaction to it is just an incredible experience.
Yeah, if I've learned anything from this, it's I'm not capable or wired correctly to be a darkness daddy.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Shadow Daddy.
Shadow Daddy. I think I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think I'm wired for it.
Well, I mean, you are straight, so it kind of also makes sense that you're not into.
Are they not normally? They're normally portrayed as being very straight. Maybe not.
I'm talking about you not being attracted to men.
No. I don't think I have it in me to be a shadow daddy.
Good, because in real life, it's incredibly cringy.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to listen to certain parts of it. There is one part within these chapters that when we get to it, I personally had a major struggle with.
Yeah, and I can see where other people would.
Yeah,
when it comes to
super upsetting.
I'm assuming the drinking part, where she is offered the drink and she's going through this battle.
She refuses it.
Yeah,
and then it's forced on her, and that that for me was so triggering. And then to find out that not was it just forcing her to consume alcohol, but that she's ostensibly roofied.
Yeah,
I think that. Regardless of what happens after, that was really hard for me to work through.
Yeah, I think that could be hard on quite a few people. For me, in that moment, I'm now, after about chapter 30, I switched to like a first person view, and then back into third person, back and forth. Like if I'm in Feyre's spot enjoying this book, or am I watching Feyre experience everything that's going on? And in that scene, I felt like I was in Feyre's spot of just like, yeah, I also would be saying no, thinking about the reasons not to, and, to stay clear-minded during all of this.
In charge of your own faculties.
And as soon as it switched to her having to drink it, I think she already had the hand thing. Thinking back on it, I wondered if it was him also like moving her hands to do it, or at least her left hand.
Yeah.
And, just to finish what I was saying about the first and third person perspective.
Yeah.
I was in her shoes, and right as soon as it switched, I went to an outside view of this is something that's happening to Feyre. This is not something that's happening to me. It is just something that I am now observing. This is just an observer point.
See, and I think I see the entire book through CCTV footage. I think watching that particular scene in my head was just so, in credit to the author, because I'm sure it was meant to be evocative of something.
Yeah,
and it worked. Yeah, and I don't believe the feelings that it elicited in me are necessarily representative of everybody. Yeah. But I do think that there is a certain portion of the population that would receive that the same way I did. Hopefully they will handle it better, because I'm not gonna lie, I had to bottle that up for a day and a half, 2 days.
Yeah,
and I could not.
I even want to take in and to just kind of sit with it of like, ooh, this is icky, this is an icky scene. And that's kind of the other books that I recommended was trigger warnings of, I don't know, where that continues to be non-consensual. I already know that I couldn't read those books and
Clearly, me neither.
Yeah.
Like I said, I I briefed for the first time. I briefed you on. I'm like, I'm going to be so hard on this guy, because what it did to my view of that character was so extreme, and I think a lot of that had to do with the solitude and processing what it was that happened, as well as the action. I think that it's probably unfair. And
that's why I could just remove myself from it very easily and just turn into me just kind of watching the story unfold. And he acknowledges it later and near the end when they're having a heart-to-heart.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they continue to acknowledge it, and this is something that she works through with him. Like, he's earning her trust, but there could always be some form of apprehension, and that's what's being used.
I think that may be the case. I think what I hope happens is that it's worked through in a responsible way and not more or less lightly mentioned and then forgotten about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because regardless of rationale for that, you can have really good rationale that wouldn't necessarily, like obfuscate him from needing to still take responsibility for it. And I think for him to be... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that if it does just kind of move on or anything like from this point, I think I'll be okay, but I can see where this will be like, remember that character flaw back in chapter 34?
I'll do what I can to not continue bringing it up.
No, I think that's okay. Well, I was wanting to start at chapter 6 and talking about that scene, the worm scene and whatnot. What were you picturing with what this worm looked like?
But initially, it was like the Tremors worm, like from the movie Tremors.
Does that have like a second little worm thing that pops out of it that smells, or am I thinking aliens?
First of all, I think you're thinking of Alien, but I think also
Predator.
Well, okay, what about the Star Wars worm thing that's in the hole?
Yeah,
like where it's just cylindrical teeth.
I had that view, but the Alaskan bullworm with SpongeBob.
You know what? I think that's a wild thing to be able to even plug into my imagination. You did a great job. I like it. I think you should design monsters.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Just start on some fan art. Just put out there, just crude little worm drawings. Like, remember in this scene, this is my skill level. Well,
and I think the worm, they did a great job of also having her discover that it was a worm.
Getting the panic with her. Overall, I thought this was a 10 out of 10 chapter. I think this was, even after getting all the way up to 43, that was still one of my favorite chapters and challenges.
I think it was the word picture that she was able to convey with the design of the maze.
The smell, always reminding of the smell to kind of keep us thinking about how nasty it is. When she kept checking it, she's like, I gotta push through it, and like her feeling nauseous from it, of kind of getting not only the fear going, but just the nastiness.
And the way that the mud and stuff was described in my brain worked like a darker, like bentonite almost, where it like clumps on you, but the only thing it sticks to is itself.
I saw it very much softer, kind of like in a nasty arena where the horses have been in for a while and it rains.
So this is really similar. That's what I'm thinking of. It's like, okay, like Farmingdale, right? We go out there after it rains. When you cross the road and you go back into where that dirt is, the lighter color, when that gets really wet, it's that kind of a.
Well, he moves pretty quickly, which is why I thought it was slick.
It's very slick, but it clings to itself well.
I'm sorry, she didn't fall ever. Like when going through the tunnels and bouncing off, she didn't fall. I was expecting on the last final run that she was going to make a mistake, and she did make a mistake. She did. It just wasn't the mistake I was expecting.
I would agree. I think though the idea of her running into the walls to make her turns was in an effort to, I relate it to like when I try to ice skate. I'm not good at ice skating. So the way that I can most efficiently, if I was just going around the rink as fast as I could, it would be to make 4 90-degree turns. I would just bam into the wall, turn 90 degrees.
Well, and I like that they described her using the bones to make those turns. I thought that was so good to really show her ability to adapt to a challenge.
Yeah.
Because we only got her ability to adapt to a challenge right away in the beginning when it's talking about her starving and needing to make choices. The other challenges were the Suriel. And I think it was just all these little moments are showing she's very quick on her feet.
Well, and to be fair, the Suriel was not a... I don't think the Suriel turned out to be the challenge it was supposed to be, in a way where they're like, oh, don't release it, like it'll tear your ass up. The Suriel was also encouraging her to escape, as well as asking for its own escape.
The next challenge where she killed 2 of the 4 or however many of those other things, and then Tamlin showed up.
Yeah, and I think that was also a good example of her ability to adapt and overcome. But I think this was a much better version of that. I would agree. This was one of my favorite chapters.
Yeah,
I think
until like with the deal, I went back and re-listened to part of it to see how long she had gone after this fight with the wound in her arm and all the other issues, because I think she was bleeding in another spot. I can't remember. Oh, she cut her hand. That's where the other spot she was bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to listen. She was there for days, and Lucian never showed up. And I was a little disappointed that Lucian had the audacity to complain of her making a deal with Riorson when she would have been dead.
Yeah, I mean, I think, though, having characters that aren't necessarily like omniscient in their ability to reason through things is part of what makes the writing of this so good.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the issues I had with The Fourth Wing, was that characters always seemed to have all of the information they needed all the time to make the exact right call or say just the right thing. And I think that's one of the better parts of this, is there are moments where I'm like, well, this is a little cheesy.
I don't think it's no matter what you want out of a book.
Yeah.
Do you feel okay with going through that discomfort, or do you want to feel good 90% of the time?
Yeah, and I think this does give you the feel good 90%. I think it just doesn't give you the feel good 100% or 99%. Yeah. But yeah, no, overall, I'm with you. The only thing I want to pick on a little bit with the using the bones to trap the worm.
Yes.
These are magic instant death bones for worms. Because, first of all, she's able to snap femurs over her knee, which is in no way ever going to happen.
Old and brittle. Yeah. They're old, and she just needed them upright.
Yeah, but they supported her weight to climb out in her ladder.
I guess I was picturing she stabbed them through it, and she's stepping closest to the wall.
Even then, like, I don't know. We're gonna give it to her on this one. It's a fantasy book, and of all the shit that's unrealistic, such as the magic and kingdoms where spring exists constantly, and somehow animals are still happy to be there, I do think that this is probably more realistic. But it was a bugaboo I had.
Just in her strength. Maybe this is one of the methods to show you how strong she is, that she can break cow femurs over her femur.
If she could break a human femur over her femur, she would be able to, like, bench press these demons easy. Like the amount of pressure. And I could be wrong on this, but I think it's something like 900 pounds of pressure to break a human femur.
Oh my God.
Like, it isn't like it's a close thing. Like, it's
like a juicy one. It's pretty fresh, still alive. Like, live person.
I don't know the science exactly. I think it's like, it's probably still live person.
Because I'm thinking dry, brittle bones that have been decaying in nasty mud for quite some time.
How long are you thinking?
Long enough that she could break them over her femur.
Okay. So these 6,000-year-old non-petrified. And also calcium, they just didn't get enough calcium for their bones, not enough milk. I get it.
Well, overall, I was expecting after the worm landed in there for it to kind of go after her a little bit, and that it was going to continue to cut down its belly and side and writher a little bit. Instead, it died pretty quickly. Like, I thought it was going to more suffer a slow
writhe or
death.
Something even... So the worm didn't even let out a noise.
Yeah, it just like...
It hit, and it was like it hit, and it stuck immediately. To me, I would relate it to like,
she's that
Velcro. Like, it just hit and stuck. That's it. And she's there. And honestly, like I said, outside of those two little bugaboos, I thought this was really cool. And even then, it was overall super cool. Those were just moments that took me out of it. When she's like, I found this femur. I busted it over my knee, and I had a moment where I'm like, whoa, no, you didn't. Get out of here, Feyre, you swore.
Well, but she couldn't bring it back to her cell. Well, she kind of did. She brought one in her arm. What'd you think of the overall deal that she made with him?
Honestly, I think the deal is fine.
For what she got out of it?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. So if I'm looking at this pragmatically, right, like the whole purpose in her being there is to free Tamlin, not for her to live happily ever after with Tamlin, right? That's the whole purpose, is that she is going to help him save his kingdom or his court.
Yeah.
And I think, therefore, kind of regardless of the terms of the deal, if you're looking at it selflessly, then you do those things.
And I see where, now that we got far enough, because we did not stop reading, is his plan, or at least what he did end up sharing openly, was so she could release Tamlin, who would then do all these other things that would benefit him.
Right. Well, and I think that there is a mutual respect between them. They have history.
Him and Tamlin. I'm really eager to hear more about him and Tamlin's history together.
As am I.
Because it is almost brotherly, like friend, like they were best friends at one point, and now they are not. I don't know how to describe it, because it's like he just gets enjoyment out of messing with Tamlin, but it's almost expected that Riorson would behave this way.
Were we informed on how Tamlin's family was killed?
We have now. We did find out at the end. Let me find what chapter it's in. It's... Okay, 42. I have the note, tries hooking up with Tamlin. Oh, Riorson has a heart-to-heart. So it's in 42.
Okay.
Where he's sitting down and he shared, I believe it was Tamlin or someone of Tamlin's family killed his parents. Tamlin's parents.
So maybe this is just a guess, right? A theory, if you will. My theory is that, so Riorson at some point trained Tamlin in combat, right? And we kind of get that from further back where they were talking around the table before Riorson saw through the glamour and saw Feyre.
I was getting that they were childhood friends and very competitive. And then their families, and that, like one's parents died from the other and they didn't hang out anymore, obviously. But very competitive.
So I think and that could be true.
Frenemies.
I think Riesling's older than Tamlin.
Okay.
And I think that Tamlin's parents, right? I think they were more problematic in a sense.
Yeah, we get little bits and pieces that they hated humans, enslaved them, did horrible, horrible things, but it seems so vague right now.
And I think it's that way intentionally, but my guess is that I guess he and Riorson have some kind of connection.
Yeah.
But I am genuinely, I think, I'm going to get way off where I want to be.
Overall, the deal.
Yeah, so I think the deal, overall, I think it was a fine deal. The only thing that aggravated me a bit was she took so long to decide to make the deal. When she was like, I'll die otherwise.
Well,
and then she's like, get out of here.
Do you want to die now? Or is it worth the risk of the life you'll live?
And again,
until you die the next time.
But if she's defeated, if she's willing to be defeated so easily in this, she would have made a horrible protagonist to go in and save all the fairies. I think her domineering traits, right? When she's like, I'm going to save Tamlin, and she's got a little rucksack with her and she's trying to sneak through the caves, and then the adder finds her or whatever, and it hauls her off and all this shit, right? She plays Billy Badass in front of the one lady who can fucking kill everything. But then she's like, I got this bone in me, and this infection might be what does me in. And he's like, listen, come hang out with me half the time or die of your infection. And she's like, fuck you, I'll die. And I'm like, but wait, that defeats the entire purpose of everything you ever did.
Are you just trying to say that you thought it should have been a quicker decision?
Yeah, because I think that she is in other areas portrayed to have piles of resolve, and in that moment she didn't really have any, so we can equate that also to her being under the weather.
Yeah,
but it was just one of those moments where I'm like, oh, we could have made this scene like 3 paragraphs shorter.
Yeah. What do you think of the eye What are your thoughts on that? Is that Reese looking at her in the tattoo, or is it just the shape?
No, I think it is. I think the
eye on her hand.
No, I think his third eye is his butthole. Brown eyes on her hand. Gross.
So what do you think of the eye?
No, I do. I think that's. I think it's obviously Riesling. Now, as far as to whether or not it's functioning as an eyeball all the time, I don't know about that.
I thought it was going to be like a little friend. Almost like he has something that keeps an eye on her, but she gives it like a personality and she like talks to it or something.
The little treasure planet thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A little treasure planet.
So cute.
Whatever his little blub.
I'm going to call him Blubbo.
Yeah, that
little guy. Little flubber.
He's so cute, but he was always on the bad guy's side, but then he like was team him. But anyways, that's what I pictured the little tattoo. I was starting to just give it a personality because she said she thought it moved. And one time she was talking to it. And then we find out that he can mind vibe with her. Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh, it's probably just him. And now it's a little, doesn't have like a separate personality, like a third personality that's, yeah, it's from him, but it's.
It makes showers more awkward too.
So far, she's not even showering.
No, but he magicked her clean.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of goes into the chapter 38. That was about the impossible task she was given. Mm-hmm. And Lucian's mom showed up, which
Scrub the floor with dirty water, but make it very clean, right? Yeah. Like mucky water.
But she didn't show up in the second challenge with the levers. And I wondered if it was, I paid my debt and okay, this girl isn't going to be able to do it again to save him. So she didn't want to watch him die.
I think it has more to do with observation too. Like when we think about when the mom shows up, right? It's after the guards have left. She leaves before the guards come back. And in all of these moments where we would want some influence from our friendly characters, if you will, allied characters, they can't do shit in the challenge because what's her name? Omarosa? No.
Amarantha.
Amarantha's right there. Eyes on everybody.
But I was just really surprised that the mom wasn't there. Or the dad, I think.
I mean, would you be?
If I truly thought one of our kids was going to die, probably not.
Listen, all I know is this bitch was scrubbing with dirty water and still trying. And I'm like, she's stupid. I'm going to give her
water. Yeah, you would think you would just leave it be and be like, oh, yeah, quit making it worse. And like, yeah, look how clean it is.
Dude, I would have taken off my clothes and used those to wipe.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was picturing. I was like, get what you have off of there and quit scrubbing.
Yeah, I'd have been nuded the fuck up. That lady would have hated walking in that room. It would have been all assholes and elbows from her vision.
And then the lentils, what were you picturing Riorson as when that was all described?
When he transformed?
Yeah, like into his beast form.
Okay, so I had chicken feet and just put chicken feet on his hands.
Yeah.
Put chicken feet on his feet. Bat wings with little spikes coming up out of them, like gargoyles. You remember that TV show? There was...
Like there was
a TV show.
One?
And Hunchback of Notre Dame had the gargoyle characters, but
that's what I thought.
There was a show in the early 90s called Gargoyles.
This is a TV show?
Yeah, it was a
90s gargoyle show. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're going to love this, right? So this is kind of what I was imagining for the wings. For the wings, that's what the wings were, 100%. And now
I don't think you're right, unfortunately, other than the tail.
Yeah, outside of a tail, but those are the claws, the feet, the whole kit and caboodle. It's the main gargoyle guy.
Oh my gosh, no.
That's who he's based on.
So I had very little imagery. I just thought it was all weird and confusing until I saw the TikTok of Mothman statue, and I was like, yes, that is what I picture. It's the Mothman statue with a handsome recent face.
Just Henry Cavill's face.
Yes.
Glued onto the Mothman statue. Listen, I think what I've learned is if we describe anybody as handsome with dark hair, it's got to be Henry Cavill. Period. Anybody.
Just Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill is every character. Okay, we've got it.
We got blonde one.
Yeah, see, okay, and the Mothman is, it's a very accurate aside from the abs. Yeah, all of the abs. He's got, well, I mean, technically, I think it's a thorax, right? Or is that, what are they? No, it's the abdomen. The thorax is below that.
It's just Mothman, handsome Mothman. And what's really hilarious is, have you seen the Mothman booty? And that people are putting money inside of, like, between his butt cheeks?
No, but I think it's awesome that
they must be removing off the internet. Oh, there it is.
There we go. Let's see.
It's got like this weird long back, long butt, but the cheeks are designed in a way that people can fit dollars and just keep pushing them in there.
That Mothman looks like he installs water heaters in New England. Like, he's just straight up plumber ass for days.
But either way, and then I looked up some fan art, and there were some better images that were helpful, and I'll try to think of that whenever he transforms back into this instead of Mothman with Henry Cavill face.
Well, and I imagine, so that's a partial transformation, right? Because he can't do the whole thing because Amarantha has his power locked away.
I re-listened to it. I think he just didn't want to. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe. It could be that, and he just doesn't have his full power, and he's using what he does have in other areas, like the mind crushing and reading, or whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, those are still lesser skills for him, which is pretty cool. At some point he mentions, he's like, if I had my full power, I'd fucking murder that bitch.
In 39, we kind of already talked about that. That's when the women came. Oh, I want to talk about what you thought she was wearing. Oh, I initially thought suspenders because I was so confused. She's like, I'm barely covered. These little strips just pretty much over my nips. And I couldn't figure out what is going on. I just was thinking of like suspenders just straight down and somehow cooch is covered. In the end, I found when looking up Reason's beast form a little bit, they had one of Feyre, and it was like this sheer scarf that wraps around her neck, down her breasts.
Correct.
And there's like this gold belt that then has the scarf cover up the front.
Yes.
But I don't know, what were you picturing?
Honestly, it was that.
Oh.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's a gifted person.
No, I think you were described really well, but I think you were distracting.
I was so distracted. There's nothing behind.
You're like, ew, she felt cold air on her ass.
Oh, no.
Gross. Is it air conditioning?
Is there fan art?
Gross. Honestly, swamp ass is a relation. So we made this dress. No, I think I was picturing that. The thing that it didn't really describe well was the body paint, right? Other than it somewhat matches the tattoo of the rune or whatever it is up her arm. And I think when I imagine that, I imagine it's more like tribal tattoos is what I'm picturing.
I think it described it as like almost like flowery-ish up her arm. Because I remember when it was being described, I was like, are you going to use the word rose, thorns, and roses? But they didn't say it wasn't described as roses, but that is where I thought it was going initially.
The real roses were the phase we made along the way. Okay.
But overall, we kind of went through that scene, and then after that, and then he said, good girl.
Yeah, no, we already touched on the problematic part of this. She gets dressed up.
Oh, and then the possessive statement.
I don't like it.
That was like, and how will I know if anybody touched you?
Okay.
In retrospect now, we saw that it was a way to show Tamlin that he was not touching her, but I mean...
But he did. He just touched her hips and lower back.
Yeah.
It's to show Tamlin he didn't grab her boobs.
Yeah.
Now, again, there are other ways this could have been done.
Yeah, I mean, the logic behind it, I think clearly it's one of those, it's working for her as an excuse, because I think it was around 42. No, it was after their heart-to-heart, which was, in 42. And she's like, he's doing this all for me. And I'm like, all right, I guess this excuse worked for you, but why the paint fully? Because outside of the times you were painted, he still hangs out with you.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I have so many other things going on with this. At a latter point, they're macking on each other. Tamlin and her start macking on each other, and he's like, whoa, Tamlin, chill the fuck out. You can't be doing this. You're irresponsible, bitch. Leave. What if Amarantha came in and saw this? We'd all be toasted. And then he knows Amarantha's like on her way, right? Now, the paint wasn't marred up from what Tamlin was doing.
Yes, it was.
Okay, let me rephrase this. Tamlin no longer is covered in the paint.
Yes.
right?
Right. Yeah.
But Riesland is when he's like, oh, quick cover story for why your paint's all fucked up.
Yep.
I'll just make out with you. He could have also just magicked the paint and it would have been totally fine.
But for the past 2 months, she's been in this paint.
No, she gets repainted.
Yeah, but in this moment when Amarantha is coming to show up, if she just didn't have paint, it's for the past 2 months, why don't you have paint on right now?
No, but he could magic the paint to look just the way it did before.
No, Ryan, this is not how fantasy works.
I don't think that you're an authority.
He was rescuing her by making out with her to save her and Tamlin's life.
And then so Tamlin walks in and sees them macking on each other. And then it was like, oh, so that whole thing that you were trying to do before really didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Continuity wise, I can see why. And it's justified. She writes it as though it's justified when she's like, good.
But she is
covered it. And
very thirsty still because she hasn't been laid in months.
No, it's like that pig farmer.
No, her and Tamlin did it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That
blocks that out.
But she is describing the moment when he's kissing her and just almost disgust. He's like, oh, gross. He's looking at the inside, the roof of my mouth.
But she's into
it. Yeah, so the roof of her mouth, to get your tongue up and in there, that's quite the stretch. But anyway,
give it a shot.
She wasn't into it initially until later, I think it was. And she's like, thinking about that.
Okay, I'll give you another one. I'm going to read one of my notes because I have in here that she talks about, first of all, I love that, I want to go all the way back to this. I love that when she's trying to make the deal, Reese is like, I want 50% custody. And she's like, 25%, heal me, bitch. And he's like, yeah. Anyway, he turns her into a stripper. And he does...
An escort, more specifically.
Well...
He's like, I need an escort.
Yeah, but let's not use that because...
I'll relieve you of your escort duties.
Yeah, but he's saying it as though she's like a police escort, almost a chaperone. And really, the way that it should be taken is hooker.
Yeah.
And and this is nothing against hookers or escorts or cops, I guess. Whoever could be offended by this. But those are very different forms of escort. Anyway, so I have in here too that this dude needs to brush his teeth if his breath is that hot, first of all. And
did she say it was hot breath?
Yeah. She's like his hot breath, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, first of all, that's a gross way to describe somebody's breath. Anytime somebody's breath is hot on you, you're like, oh, please, mint of any kind. Just get a mint. But then also they discuss how all of these creatures have all these teeth.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when she brought up the hot breath, I had another Bobby Boucher moment where it's like, they didn't phase on angry. They just angry because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush to brush them with.
Oh my God.
I don't know. That's all I could think of. I was like, Bobby Boucher, you got it.
Well, and then Tamlin bit her again. He's like I've been waiting to bite you.
Do you remember, also, he made her see lightning when they kissed?
What? No, I don't remember this.
Yeah, there's a moment in one of the kisses or whatever she describes, like, it was electric and I saw lightning, more or less. And I'm like, oh, I have it written down because I have made me see lightning. And I'm like, Feyre, a lightning wielder? Question mark.
Lucian finally showed up, judged her, and left her a stolen cloak. So he didn't even it wasn't even as gentleman-like as I thought it was.
Kind of was.
He's like, you can keep it.
This was after she had been roofied. And she's like, how much did you see? And he's like, all of it. And then
I saw the booty hole.
Yeah, he was like, oh, and you were dancing with him. And she's like, what kind of dancing? Like, that was a necessary question. And he's like, not the kind you and Tamlin do. And I'm like, okay, so she's just out there being her stripper, go-go dancer type shit. But also, why she asks so many questions that also don't matter. Like, you're in a life or death situation.
She's really good at asking questions during deals, though. Which, I think she is, because when they're talking about the deals, like when Riorson is coming up with a deal for her, I'm like, yes, girl, just say yes. And then she's asking all these good questions. Like, I didn't even think of that. The deal that I would have been in if I had said yes when I wanted to.
Okay.
I didn't even consider asking that.
You're like the person that goes to buy a new car and then somebody else bought the exact same car but got it for $5,000 less. And you're like, God damn it, why didn't I ask?
I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah, no, I honestly will give you this, but I still think the nature of there being a riddle that she could solve, for them to be, and This is a point upon my re-listen that I think makes things a little more touchy.
What's that?
The deal for the riddle is you and Tamlin will be immediately released, right? The deal, if she goes through all 3 of these trials, is not immediate.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, if she made that distinction before you said, yeah, go for it, I think I would have been like, all right, now retroactively here, before I shake on this with you, the riddle is I get to be released immediately. If I solve all 3 of your things, do I also get to be released immediately and everybody is unharmed and in good health? Like, if just knowing how this woman seems to operate, I think I would have gotten, and maybe that isn't an issue.
But Feyre briefly mentions it, which I think was a way to tell the reader also, in case it wasn't too obvious. I think that was on purpose, but Feyre was just like, I don't have time to think about this right now.
And it's still the world's most obvious riddle. Like, I think that's...
What do you think it is?
I'm standing by it's love. Like, when you re-listen to it, you just plug love in there and it works. It's not the most perfect thing in the world, but it works.
I thought it was going to be fertility or something. It didn't work.
No, scorned fertility.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
And trampled.
Yeah, trampled.
I also thought maybe Rose.
Yeah, I think you're trying to plug Rose in because it's in the title of the book.
They put Thorns out there, so I've just been looking for it. Like, I think, where's Waldo? Where's the Rose in the book?
Beg, I stand by. I think the real Rose is the Fae we met along the way. I stand by it. I think that's going to be it. Well, I was going with all the Fae. For instance, your least favorite character, Alice. See, I even remembered.
I feel a little better about her now that I found out that I was.
I think you owe Alice an apology.
I do.
You were so up Alice's ass.
Oh, there was going to be, like, she was just setting her up. But no, she was just honest about everything, and anything that she couldn't say, she was just bound to, which I have a note on there.
She's the best character of this book so far. Can we not agree on that? As far as being honest, truthful, and helpful.
Yeah.
She has been the best. Second best character of the book so far, nearing the end. It's got to be...
Who's your favorite?
The sister.
Oh, yeah. You got a thing for her.
I do.
And I do think she comes back into...
She fucking better. And I want her to be the one where they're, like, describing the skimpiness of the outfit. Like, get into it, guys. Come on.
She's just a bitch the entire time. You're like,
yeah, I hope... Initially, I was like, oh, I hope she ends up with the Darkness Daddy. Not anymore.
Shadow Daddy?
Shadow. Yeah, god damn it. I don't know why it's hard for me.
Well, it was so funny when Riorson did the literal shadow moment. I just like turned, I was just like, oh my god, did you hear it?
Yeah, he's literally cloaked in shadows. He moves through shadows.
So funny.
He is everything you could imagine him.
And they're shadow ladies, but you didn't seem too interested in them.
They're fine. They didn't say much.
No. They were actually, that was their one thing described.
Yeah, and
don't talk.
You know what? Honestly, there are some guys I know that might be the perfect woman. Okay. They're
just quiet goth girls.
Barely seen. Yeah, exactly. Whereas I am drawn to personalities. And I like...
Yeah, I don't think Nessa has been described very well, other than she is a bitch.
Yeah, we don't even know what she looks like, but I can tell you right now, she has her mom's eyes.
Yep.
Which are Feyre's eyes.
Yeah.
And she's an asshole. Those are the things that I know about her, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm a personality guy.
Then chapter 40 is the second challenge where she can't read.
Yeah, okay, so this illiterate bitch. I love the idea of an author writing a protagonist that's illiterate.
I think it's going to be a big point in her growth. And it's so unfair that she can't read. And I know, like, we joked about it last time. It just makes me really sad that her sisters and her dad failed her.
Yeah, well, also, yeah.
And it nearly got her killed.
Yeah, well, and probably several times. Like, think about, she's going into a strange town. She doesn't know which one's the inn unless it's got a picture of a house on it. She doesn't know where to eat unless it's got a picture of a bowl or something on it. I think her being illiterate, I do like that it is a point that immediately in this book was like, oh, this is a problem for her, right? And I like that it became something important. What kills me is the hand is like, no,
don't do it. And that's where that was one of those times where I thought it was personality and that it was its own thing outside of Riorson. That's where I was hoping.
How hilarious would it be if the hand is what teaches her to read? It would be awesome. Well, here's what kills me. She can read. She reads the word grasshopper.
She can read some things, yeah. And it's just not...
Okay, but she got grasshopper. Have you thought about that
word? Do we
word?
even know if it really is that word?
Well, I think we're left to assume it. The way that
what if it wasn't?
The way that she sounded it out was...
the narrator did so good.
The narrator did great, because I, for a moment, was like, I think this narrator might be illiterate. But also I was like, okay, grasshopper is such a wild word to have got as quickly as she did. Like, we had young children. They're not so young anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're sounding out words, I don't think grasshopper was one they would get immediately if they only know words like the and but and or and Like, I think that was, regardless, it was well done. The thing that really cracked me up was her being illiterate was an extra challenge, because...
Well, she still would have been challenged with the riddle.
I don't think she would have ever got it.
I don't think,
She still got the first riddle. Yeah. The first riddle is not complicated. If I'm wrong about what this riddle is, I would be happy to issue a formal apology.
Funny if we just never know, because she just decides to never answer it. She continues on with the ending. It's just like, you are just left hanging.
Which, well, here's the thing. I think the riddle ends up having to be the solution.
Yeah.
Because of where we land at the end of this, there's no way we have 2 chapters left.
It's 3, actually.
Okay, There's no way we have 3 chapters left, given where we left off.
Yeah.
Because where we left off should be the final moments of the 3rd challenge.
And it should be.
Yeah, and in order for this book to end in a way where there is another book, the riddle is the solution. It isn't just solving this and now it's done.
Yeah.
I think that there has to be a point of...
Because if you do both, she would have to hold... It's not an either or. If you do this, this happens. Or if you do this, this happens. But it's not really a...
Yeah, I think we still need mostly a chapter of conflict, a chapter of resolution, and then a chapter that introduces something for the next book.
Yeah.
And that's just my guess. Because we could do, let's say that was the end of it. We have this 1 chapter of full resolution, and then the next chapter would be them living on in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that wouldn't prep you much for the next book. I think you need...
I think I know what the ending is, because TikTok keeps showing me stuff. I'm like, oh, is this? I think it is. But overall, it's going to be a great moment, and I totally get why so many people make TikToks about it.
My lack of excitement as far as digging out more information for this book has really benefited me.
Yes.
Like, I am excited to listen to more of the book. I do not seek this book's content in any way, and it's really nice.
Spend most of my time on TikTok avoiding spoilers now, because it's like, I know what you want. I know you want it. Come watch this spoiler with me.
Yeah.
Like, no, keep it away.
You're doing a good job fighting it off. I think a spoiler would ruin it, because I'm viewing the whole thing as a game of Clue.
Chapter... Oh, you know what else happened also in chapter 40 in the second challenge?
Please.
So the arm did the challenge, and they can mind vibe. I'm super jealous of that.
Reese and her can mind vibe, yeah.
Well, or at least one way. He can talk to her.
I assume that she is also... I assume that she communicates with him as well. And I say this because when he's in other people's minds, he can read their thoughts and their memories and all this.
But overall, another moment where I'm just jealous. I wish I could mind vibe with you. Like, where we're at work and it's just like, hey, what are we doing for dinner tonight? I mean, we can do a text.
Using that example makes me kind of happy that we're not able to mind vibe. I had so many other things that I wanted to discuss, and you're like, chores.
What do we do for dinner? I would rather just continue working and just mind vibe you instead of picking up my phone.
Is there any way I could leave you on red for that one? Like, that's not a conversation I'm going to have.
If I don't feel like answering a question, I can't just like turn off the mind vibing.
Yeah, like I feel
red scent.
Yeah, no, I like very much the idea of mind vibing. If it just became purely the mundane shit, it would kill me. I think it would be such a cool skill to have so that I could have more understanding, though, because there's so many times where we're talking about something.
Just send you pictures, just like little mind flashes.
Honestly, I'd just be sending you
oh, gosh. If we had this, it would have to be turned off, just like
Can't be,
on and off.
Because mine's going to be stronger, because I'll train it so that it is. And then I'll be like, gotcha, bitch. No, but I was thinking, like, even where we discussed one of your work problems today, right?
Yeah.
And how much easier would that have been if we could have just conveyed it through imagery?
Yeah.
What it is that you were trying to
I don't think you would have liked the images that I would have been mind vibing when I get frustrated. It would just be frustrated, angry, and frustrated. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, but I think we could have circumvented that frustration.
Yeah, long before we got there.
Yeah, and also I'd like to add, I don't know why you get to be frustrated. I mean,
I was frustrated with myself that I couldn't explain myself.
But if we mind vibe, it's no problem. I feel like this is a cyclical argument. I don't know what's happening anymore. You're right. I'm sure. I don't know.
But what I was going to share is this was the chapter that he licked her tears.
Oh, yeah. Sucking on eyelashes because he's gross. That's where his breath was hot.
Oh, was it? Yeah. So I re-listened to that.
It's hot tongue.
That chapter, and he didn't suck on her lashes.
No, but that's a funny image. He licked her eyelashes, or kissed her eyelashes, which I understand the point is to show that he can be delicate and soft, but also that's gross. The dude's got hot breath and it's right in your eyeball. I don't know. It's not for me. Needless to say, I don't think I'm not in the camp of kissing on this guy.
And then after looking that, is the palm, oh yeah, I had the question, is the palm his eye? Then in 41, where she heard the creepy thing, the adder talking about Highburn and the war going on.
Okay, what do you think the creature was that the adder was talking to?
No clue. That's what I wanted to ask you. A ghost.
So I envisioned it like another Shadow Daddy type character where he's just like, motherfucker, try me. Like, because the adder so far has proven to be a Billy badass, right? Yeah. Among even these high fae.
Whoever this guy is left it speechless.
And this was where he's just like, hey, you don't talk shit in Amarantha's house. And this dude's like, do I need to remind you that we can burn down this fucking house whenever we want and we don't need magic for it. We'll just do this shit by force.
Potions.
Yeah, he's like, you guys keep playing with your toy shit. This is the real power. And the adder's like, you know, this has been cool, but I don't know if I want to fuck with you anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and then we find out the adder can shapeshift?
Oh, yeah, the end of where we were. Yeah, so I was kind of fading in and out during this. He was shapeshifted as Tamlin, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't necessarily think the adder can shapeshift. And maybe
she can throw a glamour on it.
Yeah, I think she can shapeshift him or whatever. Yeah, and also, so she murders these two people, right? I also like that it was written so that the second one that she murders, this girl is like accepting of it as for the greater good. Like, go ahead and take my life, right? So far, it's the most courageous person we've had in this entire book. Everybody else is like, no, like things can be good with me in the world, but if the world's fucked or I'm dead, how about I live and the world stays fucked just a little longer until we find something else? This girl was like, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. I found my gods or whatever. I'm going to the croc. Not the croc. What's that thing called? The cauldron.
Cauldron, yeah.
Yeah, like cauldron will take my soul or whatever and it'll be cool. The first one that she murders, that was really sad because that dude begged for his life the whole time. And she was ice cold and frosty and like,
would you have done it? Would you have killed him?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. In this scenario, I've killed, and I wouldn't have probably waited that long to have finally killed Tamlin.
I think, and I'm going to try to just talk about with Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, just in the aspect of personality.
Spoilers ahead.
No spoilers.
Oh.
I don't think Violet would have done it. I think Violet, in the way that things work out for Violet, she would have found another way and it would have worked out for her. That's all. Like in that moment when after we finished those two books, I was still kind of in the mentality of what works out for Violet, of when faced with the choice like that, she wouldn't have needed to choose. And I liked that this book, Feyre had no choice and she had to make the difficult choice and she did it, because I was expecting it to be a situation where the author was going to write it in that she can escape it. And she couldn't. And I liked that.
So this is what I'm going to say, though. I agree with you. I think what sucks is the idea of now. So this is where I kind of hope my theory is wrong, right? If she now solves the riddle, what the fuck over? Like, come on. If it took 5% more brain power and you were there and you murdered 2 or 3 people to get to where you're at.
Well, all the brainstorming she put in to think about Tamlin having a stone heart. but yet she didn't put in this much effort in trying to solve the riddle the entire time.
Plugged in one of the 15 words she knows.
Yeah, her entire time in solitude, she didn't have this moment.
Well, this is the thing. I think she overall spent her downtime really poorly. That being said, because I think it could have been used for any number of things. Like, she could have just literally practiced writing small words.
But I can see where, imagine trying to learn Spanish all by yourself in a jail cell with how much you
If I speak it fluently, because she speaks the language fluently.
But if you've never...
And she's capable of sounding out words, therefore she knows what the sounds the letters make. I'm not saying that she would become this excellent, she's not going to be the author at the end of her prison sentence, but I'm saying I see it as the same thing as dudes that go to prison and they go in all spindly and they come out super jacked. Like, okay, you know what? Sure, you murdered some people, but while you were in there, you didn't just sit there and do nothing. You were doing whatever sort of self-improvement
that's also a survival thing. I think there's a lot of confounding factors in the motivation behind working out in jail.
Correct. Why would those not be there?
She does have those things.
Yeah. She's there all the goddamn time. She only gets 3 hots and a cot, and that's all she gets in that joint.
Do you remember when she is in her jail cell and there's music faintly playing? What was that scene? I was so confused.
I think she was hearing it from like a celebration. Like, I assume it was like the party that she's later brought to with Riorson, but she could hear the music from her cell.
Okay, and it kind of had her hallucinate?
I think she was hallucinating because she was not eating, the food was moldy, and she was sleep deprived.
I just thought she was like daydreaming and that it was Tamlin playing music up somewhere.
Maybe. Yeah.
I just didn't know what you thought of that because it was such an odd scene and I didn't understand what was going on. I feel like for how long it went on that there was purpose behind it, but I haven't seen the purpose behind the music and hearing it.
I think the purpose behind it was to get you ready for the fact that there were these parties that happened often.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was more of a primer for, we weren't shocked when Riorson was like, I need an escort to the party. We didn't really hear, she wasn't like, what do you mean party? Like, she showed up and was surprised by how lively the atmosphere was or the ambiance of the party, but she wasn't shocked that a party was happening.
Yeah.
It was like, I think...
And she has been drugged for how long of kind of wanting to be up there and a part of it and withdrawal, like, maybe?
Yeah. I think that's just my guess. I don't know.
Yeah, which is not...
I think...
But
yeah,
okay.
That's kind of the way that I saw it. And I think that it lent itself well to it being, there isn't just nothing happening when she's in the jail cell. Like, life exists outside of her. And I like that. I like those moments.
42, we kind of already talked about it. We talked about Reese's heart-to-heart and her and Tamlin trying to hook up. Kind of how that went. Did you have any other extra things on that? Because I really didn't. It was just like... guys, no, this is going to get everyone injured. So they were just kind of...
Weirdly, I think I identified more with that part where I'm just like, there's times where I'm just horned up. And I'm like...
Well, she was prepared to die.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there are times where I would be 100%. Like, if it was like, okay, you can do this now and potentially die if you don't do this other thing you're supposed to do. There are times where it's like a real struggle in my brain to be like, wow, I need to do something else. This cannot be the priority.
I think you're being very vague and I am very confused. Are you saying while listening to the book, you understand that moment? Are you using real life experiences where you've almost died and you're just like...
Oh, no, not those. No, I was trying to be vague to preserve the sanctity of,
yes,
what's going on here. I'm saying there are times where I would value sexy times over anything else.
Okay.
Anything.
Okay. And that's therefore, where you can relate to them sacrificing kingdoms.
They're just too horned up.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about the kingdoms. That's the thing. The kingdoms never entered their mind. And that's what I can relate to. It is not like I'm constantly weighing out the priorities. It's more like my mind is on this, and that is it. That's all. There isn't other things. There are sacrifices that I'll think about afterward.
Well, and I think it also, so far, them being able to get away showed... whatever way Riorson can mind vibe with her, he just found that she was missing rather than checking in with her brain and like locating her with like a GPS and like, found you.
Honestly, yeah. Just point the hand around. I'll figure out where you're at in the castle. Yeah.
How funny if he has his own as like a little locator.
Yeah. It just like vibrates as he's spinning the right direction.
And then the last little part that I want to talk about, because we went through the challenge, she killed the first two. She's about to kill Tamlin. What do you think is going to happen next?
Oh, yeah. Well, clearly because of the 45 minutes of exposition on how his heart is made of stone.
Or that she thinks it is.
Well, everybody else has mentioned it.
Or it's a figure of speech.
Well, not to everybody, okay? Think about it. The adder. You've got a heart of stone, but you've got fear in it. Like, at first I was like, oh, it's a figure of speech. And then when she brought up the way that the adder mentioned it, I'm like, it doesn't seem like he's really hip on colloquialism. Like, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that doesn't pick up on, you know, I don't know what the kids are calling it now, but I'd say you got a heart of stone, and he just rolls forward. No, I think that it's, my guess is when it's like, oh, the source of their power she took.
Yeah.
I think it literally.
That was a good explanation that I was able to follow. Like, oh, yeah, okay, that's how Amarantha.
Yeah, and so I'm willing to buy it. I think more so what gets me is before you get to the heart, like the first guy she murders, she doesn't stab him in the heart.
He had a much slower death, and she went to give a fast death for the next person.
Yeah, but the other guy's still there moaning.
Yeah.
Like, right next to him. Like, what kills me is it's like, I murdered him, but I didn't stab him in the heart.
Where did she stab him, I guess? I don't know.
I think she just stabbed him.
In the chest?
And yeah, somewhere. Like, she might have punctured a lung.
A little bit. He withered longer than the worm.
Yeah, no, this is exactly. Can we get one of the bones from the pit and stab him? That's the real way. But I think what gets me is, so even if she does stab him in the heart, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you stab me and stop just shy of the heart, right? There's still going to be some real injury going on here.
I think that they die just because it's the ashwood, too.
So this is what I thought. It's almost like an allergic reaction. Yeah. That's how I took it.
Like a poison.
Right. Because also the wolf that she kills in the very beginning, I don't believe she stabs in, I don't think she gets in the heart. It's right through the eye.
That was the second shot, I thought. She got one. The ash one I thought was more in the side, and it turned and looked at her as she did her second shot right in the eye. And that shot, she expected to kill it, and it didn't. It was a slower death, as if it was from the ash one.
Okay, so it leads more into the idea that it's like they're going through anaphylaxis, basically.
Completely wrong, because that was like chapter 1.
Yeah, well, and no, I'm inclined to believe you.
It's my story now.
Well, and the way that I interpreted this was it's like they're experiencing anaphylaxis because they're straight up allergic to the ash.
And it's very quick, so it's not even like a slow. For the most part, it's pretty fast, however it affects them. That's where I was kind of confused. Like, yes, okay, so his heart is made of stone, but I didn't think that it really, I thought it was just it.
What about the rest of his chest cavity?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's two possibilities.
If she stabs him, because, maybe we should, before we go into the next one, see what the rule of the game, you must stab each of them, or is it kill each of them?
I think it's kill.
Okay.
Because otherwise she could have stabbed him in like the foot.
Because if his heart is covered in stone, he is stabbed, it'll break it. But if she doesn't kill him, then it is this paradox that she set her up for.
Well, and I would argue either way, it ends up being an issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think even if it's just, stab these people with a knife. Well, if that ends up being okay, then she really fucked up.
You're right, because you could just stab them.
You could have stabbed them.
Non-fatal.
Yeah. Clip them a little bit, like somewhere that it just doesn't matter that much. Like I poked him in the ass cheek with a knife.
I would have caught something like that if it was just stab them. I'd be like, why the hell did you kill him?
Yeah, no, I think she has to execute.
I think she does. But how can you kill him if his heart is I
think you cut off his fucking head with that bad boy. It would have been.
She's just like sawing at it.
No, remember she describes that when she stabs with it, it is the ash is like more or less a hot knife through butter. Like it's so easy. Yeah, go back and listen to that. It made me think of like, oh, this is a fucking lightsaber of wood. Like it's just smooth as.
Well, I like that they described that it was all made of wood, but it was made is maybe the word, that it was like glass.
It's weighted too. Yeah, it's heavy.
Are they able to touch it? They had it on pillows. The Fae, do they have to have other creatures make these knives and then put them on pillows and
So I question this as well.
I don't think
they
could touch it.
They made 3 separate ones so that she'd have to pick it up 3 times instead of just making a rule of, hey, you stab the person until they're dead. You can't remove the knife. Then
picking it up off the floor if they can't touch it.
This is the thing. I think they just have to have sacrificial phase. But here's the cool thing. You have 3 of these bad boys, right? You're a huntress. You know who I'm actually trying to stab? Not even the main lady, right? But like, maybe I just toss that bad boy into the crowd when I'm done. Just straight up in the air, and you lawn darts their asses, and just to see if they scatter. And then the adder, I'm chucking one at that guy just to see. Because what's he going to do, catch it? Get him out of here.
Well, I didn't really understand her logic other than Amarantha is just a psycho. Because she's like, well, to really prove that you're worthy of Fae, kill us. Kill 3 of us even. I'm like, what? That doesn't... What? I feel like if you truly... Well, she doesn't. We know she doesn't care about her people, so I don't know what I'm going on about with it.
I think what you're looking for is a little more wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
You want her to be at least honorable with her nonsense. And
I feel like it just doesn't line up with...
I think it lines up with her character perfectly, though.
She's a psycho.
Correct. Yeah. And that's one of the things, like I said, I cannot credit this author enough. There are things that I think are amazing. And one of the consistencies is this is a nonsensical character who's just hell-bent on torture.
Yeah.
What actions is she taking? Constantly those actions. She's not doing anything else.
Just to kill or torture and enslave her own people?
Well, okay, yeah. And the only reason we really get our own people from this is she uses the term us.
Yeah.
Right? Or one of us, and then we sometimes.
You ready to start the next chapters?
Yeah, I think so. That's the end.
Do you have any other notes?
So she's stabbed. And if this, just before we touch on the next part, if this motherfucker doesn't die, or at least be severely injured,
yeah,
like I'm going to be bummed out. But also, if she ends up solving this riddle, and it is just love that solves this, we will have to discuss very strongly whether or not we read a second book. Because we may need to start a different series. Because our protagonist not only would be illiterate, but so stupid.
No.
Okay, so what if it is love? How are you?
I will react completely fine and neutral and be like,
But you feel that way, or do you think I've ruined that for you?
No, not at all. I am going to get enjoyment out of your reaction to whatever the answer of this riddle.
And if I'm wrong, are you going to tease me endlessly for the fact that I was so confident?
Yes.
All right, so I would like to also add, if I am wrong, I will make an apology TikTok.
Okay.
Just about what a dummy I am, and I'll let you write the script. I'll sign it.
Sounds good. I love you.
I love you.
You're my bestie.
You're my bestie. It was a great time. We had fun. Now get out and go live your life.
No, wait. No. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate and love you all. Please follow us here, TikTok or Instagram at Shadow Daddies Podcast.
And then go live your life.
Bye.
Bye. Get out. We're done. This was Daggers and Shadow Daddies. Now it's my time. Toodaloo. It was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you. But that's all we've got. Goodbye. Come back in a few days. We love you.